This is Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine. This is the place where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Jo Reed. And today, the founder of AudioFile, Robin Whitten, and if it's Robin, it's thrillers and mysteries, but a little bit more this week, correct, Robin?
Well, yes, you're right on the money on this one, Jo. That absolutely. We're going to talk about 3 mystery, spy, suspense titles, audiobook titles that are right out of possibly the real world, if you think about it. Kind of spooky.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
So we're going to talk about 3 titles that really feature, I would love to say they're anti-authoritarian investigators. All 3 of our protagonists for these titles: Hotel Ukraine by Martin Cruz Smith, read by Jeremy Bobb; Clown Town by Mick Herron, read by Gerard Doyle; and The Hallmarked Man by Robert Galbraith, read by Robert Glenister.
3 great titles. Okay, so we're beginning with Hotel Ukraine, I'm assuming?
Actually, when I looked at it, we're starting with the shortest one of these 3 titles. And this is a lovely, compact, little story by Martin Cruz Smith, and it's his last. He passed away earlier this year, but it involves Arkady Renko, who is the character with a long life since Gorky Park, which was introduced to us in the 1980s. Is that right?
Wow.
Yes.
I remember, I mean, it was a huge book. I read it. It was captivating. And Hotel Ukraine was a locale in Gorky Park, in fact.
Yes. So we're still in Russia. Arkady is
Yes.
still in Russia. However, we're in much more contemporary times because the Russians have just invaded the Ukraine. So Arkady is working for the state. However, he is very much always chafing against the authority, but trying to survive in the regime as it is. And in this case, he is investigating the murder of the Russian Minister of Defense. That makes it very interesting. And I have not listened to Jeremy Bobb before, so I was very glad to discover him. And he does a wonderful job with this.
Excellent. And it's interesting because I know he's done quite a bit of TV, like Russian Doll and Godless, but I really don't know him as an audiobook narrator. So in listening to the excerpt you had provided, I was really interested in hearing his voice.
He's very good at this. I mean, I think he has recorded a number of other recent Arkady Renko titles by Martin Cruz Smith. And he's, as you say, he seems to be well versed in Russian politics. Perhaps he also has done nonfiction about Russian oligarchs. And he was also, interestingly, the narrator of Walter Isaacson's Elon Musk biography.
Well, why don't we just hear a little bit of him since neither of us had been familiar with him before this book?
This is an excerpt with Arkady and his colleagues, who are state security folks in a Western coffee shop in Moscow.
This is an excerpt from Hotel Ukraine by Martin Cruz Smith, read by Jeremy Bobb.
"A coffee, please," Arkady said. "What kind of coffee?" "A coffee, kind of coffee." They circled through endless descriptions of macchiatos, americanos, and mochas before Arkady conceded defeat and ordered a flat white, whatever that was. Victor peered at the board behind the baristas as though it existed purely to antagonize him and eventually went with a triple espresso. "Yes, of course you can make one. Just make a double and put another shot in." Marina had a cappuccino, which some of her FSB colleagues would still have regarded as unpalatably bourgeois.
He is very, very good with accents.
Yes, he really is. They don't get in the way, but they're very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about Martin Cruz Smith's stories, and I remember this from Gorky Park, but it is amplified here again, is all how good he is at observing little idiosyncrasies of Russian life, whether it's a habit of a person or wiper blades, broken elevators, all these little things that he is such a keen observer. And this little scene with the coffee shop is part of that.
And, his narration is very straightforward, Bob's.
Mhm.
So I can see why he does a lot of nonfiction.
Yes, it's sort of economical.
Yeah, oh, good word. That's exactly right. And it's also, Martin Cruz Smith has had Parkinson's for 30 years. And he knew this was his last book, and he wrote an afterword that is really very moving.
It is, and of course, in the story, Arkady has Parkinson's as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of it. But a lovely end to a long career as a writer. And, when you listen to Jeremy Bobb do this, I'm thinking, oh, I should go back and listen to other ones of.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing when I heard the excerpt. It was,
And I don't know, might not have to start with Gorky Park, but that's all right. There are a lot of titles in between.
Absolutely. Okay, the second book on your list, Clown Town by Mick Herron, read by Gerard Doyle.
Yes, we have talked about the Slough House series, of which Clown Town is one. And it is the basis, just so that our listeners know, this is the basis for the Slow Horses streaming series.
Which is brilliant. The books are brilliant. Gerard Doyle narrates it brilliantly. I'm listening to Clown Town right now. I love this series. I love Gerard Doyle's narration of it. It is just so extraordinary what he does with these characters. It's brilliant. The number of voices he has, how true they feel to the character.
And it's all very subtle. I mean, you really have to be a good listener for this series because it's so complicated. You can get lost very easily because I think that Gerard narration sort of keeps the story subtle. It is not, they're not these big characters where you see in a conversation, oh, that's one person talking and there's the next person talking. It's all very restrained. So as a listener, you have to be paying attention or you can get completely lost.
Well, except for Jackson Lamb. I mean, his Jackson Lamb is so distinctive. But yeah, like the subtlety of his voicing of one of the characters, particularly Catherine Standish. It is so subtle, and yet it is perfect for that character. Yes. It's super brilliant narration because, as you said, there is a lot of intrigue. All this trickery that's sort of being revealed through conversation, bait being offered, maybe it's being taken, maybe it's not. It's just amazing.
I found a little synopsis that says, the series is espionage, blackmail, revenge, cunning, slapstick, and state secrets. I mean, all of it. And Gerard is brilliant. He is a golden voice, so we expect nothing less. But he's so in tune with Mick Herron's whole premise about the series, the sense of the characters. And if you, as we both do, we watch the Slow Horses, the TV series with Gary Oldman. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
These are, these characters are, so getting the tenor of those characters is so important. I found a little clip to play, but I found actually a piece which is sort of positive and light in a funny way. This is River Cartwright, who is the young slow horse reprobate, who is he's probably one of the smartest ones in the bunch, but he's also the catalyst for everything that goes wrong.
He's always getting beaten up.
He is. So here he is with a little clip. Let's listen.
This is Clown Town by Mick Herron, read by Gerard Doyle.
Breathing, for example. Breathing was not something he'd take for granted again. Or that was how it felt most mornings, when he woke and found himself doing just that. Drawing in air, expelling it, his lungs doing their job unassisted, in a room empty of equipment designed to cope with the possibility that they might not. Waking up next to Sid, too. His new life was full of good things, moments he'd never call miracles, because once you did that you were hostage to a belief system, but still, pretty good. He'd been dead, or the next worst thing, had spent 9 days in a coma.
River has a nice moment.
Yes, it may be his last moment for a nice moment for a while.
I honestly can't praise Gerard Doyle enough for this. It's really wonderful, and it's such a great marriage with Mick Herron's writing. This is one of those perfect author-narrator marriages, I
I
think.
think so.
Okay, one of my favorites, obviously one of yours too.
Yeah.
So how are we ending? What's our third?
It's interesting because something about the narrator, Gerard, that is similar with all three. All of these narrators are so in tune with the series. So the last one is The Hallmarked Man by Robert Galbraith and read by Robert Glenister. Now, Robert Glenister has done all of this is the 8th in the series, in the CB Strike series, and Glenister has done all of them.
And if you are a lover of BritBox, you will recognize Glenister immediately. He's been in Vera. He's been, what else? In Paranoid. He's been in The Nightcaller.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, I saw his face and I was like, oh, I know you. Because the voice was so familiar to me. And I looked him up online and was like, of course.
Well, I will have to investigate this. But he has done such brilliant work with this series that it's won, I think, almost all of the 7 others, and this one is an earphones winner, but several of the others are earphones winner in the series. And The Silkworm and Career of Evil both won Audio Awards in 2015 and 2016. So, within the same series, that's quite exceptional.
Okay, so why, for people who might not have heard about the series, the Strike series, why don't you tell us a little bit about the series, a little bit about the author?
Okay, so we are focused on 2 private investigators, Comoran Strike, CB Strike, and his partner, Robin Ellicott. They are a partnership in their agency, and there also is a very interesting, tense relationship between them personally, which plays out through every one of the books and is quite a wonderful aspect of it. They take on various cases, and in this case, they have a very wealthy client who's convinced that the father of her newborn baby has been murdered because he's disappeared. Robin and Cormoran and Strike are trying to either prove that he was murdered or find him.
And Robert Galbraith, for people who might not know,
Is J.K. Rowling. So she
of Harry Potter fame.
Yes, of Harry Potter fame. And in contrast with the first title, The Hotel Ukraine, which is only 6 hours long, this is a long listen. This is 31 hours and it goes on and on. But I have to say, Robert Glenister had me with him the whole way.
This isn't even the longest of the Strike books. It's not even in the top.
You checked.
Yes, it's not even in the top 3. So she really goes on and on when she writes these books. And it's interesting because I read a review in The Guardian, and the reviewer said, many have complained about the length of her books, the Strike series. He wrote, including me. But with this one, I actually think it's not bad because it's a brisk start that just doesn't let up. So,
well, as I said, I was with it. I was daunted a little bit, and yet the story is good, and Robert Glenister is brilliant, and keeps all the different parts, the characters wonderfully clear and individualistic. It's really very interesting.
Well, let's listen.
Okay, this is Strike on his way to meet a new client. And he's gotten a very unusual call from Robin, and he's sort of mulling this over.
This is The Hallmarked Man by Robert Galbraith, read by Robert Glenister.
Everything about this call had annoyed Strike, and an awareness that he was being unjust, because this was the first time in 6 years Robin had taken a sick day. And if she had a temperature of 104 and a swollen throat, it was perfectly reasonable for her to ask her boyfriend to call on her behalf, deepened rather than alleviated his grumpiness. He'd been counting on Robin driving him to Kent in her old Land Rover, and the prospect of several hours in her company had been the only point in favour of keeping this appointment.
I like the undercurrent of tension in Glenister's voice, and it's such a forceful, dynamic narration. He is just driving that plot. I mean, and who knows? Maybe he said, it's going to end up at 30 hours. Let's keep it moving.
Yes, but there is a real forward motion always.
And when you said the tension between Strike and Robin, it really is. It's a romantic tension. Are they, aren't they? Are they, aren't they going to get together because there's an attraction between them? And I am coming down on the side of I hope they don't, because every time characters do, something happens in the series. It just doesn't work.
Right. I mean, the tension is part of this
Exactly.
series and the kind of up and down of their lives and the poor choices that each of them make throughout this series. But it's interesting because there are not, as you can imagine, in 30 hours, there are so many different little bit subplots.
Oh, I'm sure.
But Glenister just keeps you engaged. It's got a lot of forward motion for the story, but also I think you can kind of say, I'm going to take a break, but then you come back, you know where you are. So that's the three for this week. I think it's a very interesting group.
You got a good week. A lot of fun. You're right. They're not anti-heroes.
Anti-establishment. They are all anti-establishment for sure.
They are all people who take the law as a suggestion rather than the law.
That's true. And rules, well, yeah.
Yeah. When they work, let's be practical.
I think that's very true. And such individuals. So it's great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin. I'll talk to you next month.
All right. We will, Joe.
Today's episode of Behind the Mic is sponsored by Blackstone Publishing, creators of award-winning books and audiobooks for every kind of reader. Find out more at blackstonepublishing.com. Don't forget to follow Behind the Mic wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating. It does help people to find us. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart, Robin Whitten, Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dow and Coco McCracken are our editors. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way. And I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.